Bill O'Reilly from BillO'Reilly.com and his latest book, Legends and Lies, The Civil War. Father's Day is Sunday. I know Bill's going to say, if you order it today, you're going to have a chance to have it there by time for Father's Day on Sunday. But I'll let him say it. It's Legends and Lies, The Civil War. And Bill O'Reilly, welcome to the program, sir.
I have to make one correction off the top. The reason the dog interrupted the program was because she was offended by you, Beck. All right? And then she ran around in circles, howling, and looking at me.
Can I tell you, we had a dog whisperer call in after, and what Holly was actually saying was, help, help, I'm trapped in this old man's house. He's got the heat up to 95 degrees.
And that dog whisperer's name is, please? I'd like to debrief.
Bob Stevenson.
Bob, yes.
So, anyway, so, Bill, a lot has happened since Tuesday. Where do you want to begin? The shooting?
There are two big stories running this week, and obviously the political shooting in Alexandria is one, and then the Mueller investigation is two, and they don't really have any crossover other than President Trump is commenting on both. That's the only similarity between the two stories. So if you want to start with
let's start with the shooting
from Illinois who goes out and wants to kill Republicans, that's always going to be the case. You're always going to have people like that. I don't believe that it's directly linked to progressive politics. I think it's a guy who's just unhinged, watches too much cable TV. The fuse is lit there, and then he acts out.
Bill, how come so many on the right are willing to say that and say, especially on a week where within a 2-week period, we had Kathy Griffin holding a severed head. We had Shakespeare in the Park showing an assassination of Trump. We have politicians from the left celebrating or excusing the Antifa movement. How come we're so willing to admit the truth that there are those who are revolutionaries that are on both sides of the aisle, on the fringes, the very edges, that want a revolution? However, what happened in Central Park was not a cause of this or play any role in this guy's thinking. Yet the left will say Sarah Palin, still the New York Times, Sarah Palin, was responsible for the shooting in Arizona 5 years ago.
Of Gabby Giffords. I don't think there's a cause and effect of this guy in Illinois. I think that he was a person who was mentally ill. Doesn't excuse the evil, and if he had lived, he should have been, and in Virginia probably would have been executed. But you have a line that is clear to most Americans. It's very clear. That's been crossed, all right, with Trump. And I've said this to you, way back when you were on TV with me. Hard for me to cover the Trump administration because the hatred directed toward him influences almost everything he does. And the hatred is so wrong, morally wrong. I mean, the thing you cite in the New York Times, that's inexcusable. It's inexcusable, but it's just an example of how not the fringe Kathy Griffins, Madonna, all of these nuts, all right? But this is an establishment newspaper that's looked up to by the network news in particular that runs this on the editorial page.
Do you give them any credit for correcting it by 8 o'clock yesterday?
They were under such unbelievable strain. And this isn't the first time these people have done this. I mean, they are not a newspaper anymore. That's not a newspaper. That's a far left progressive journal that actually coordinates its coverage with far left groups.
They had on the editorial page, right next to that one, they had on the editorial page a great editorial from the conservative point of view saying None of that is true.
Brett Stevens, yeah.
Yeah.
None of what is true?
None of the, basically my opinion and your opinion on that this guy was not politically motivated. The rhetoric has nothing to do with it. So they did have the other point of view right next to it. Any credit for that?
But it's so what? They hired Stevens from the Wall Street Journal to be a token, but their paper is top to bottom editorializing, even in the hard news pieces, that Trump is unfit and that Trump is this and he's a criminal or whatever. But back to the guy in Illinois. I know a lot about this because of killing Kennedy and killing Reagan. We had Oswald and Hinckley involved, and they were not political people at all. Oswald, yeah, he went to Russia and all that, but he was just a ne'er-do-well who was looking for attention. Hinckley, just a really disturbed individual. All right, this guy in Illinois, he was on that level of being disturbed, but his fuse was lit by the hateful rhetoric on television primarily. And we know that by his Facebook posts and what he had said before.
And by he was a big fan of Russia Today as well. He Facebooked and tweeted out a lot of Russian propaganda as well that was basically all anti-Hillary. Let me ask you this, Bill. Because you have done so many killing books, I mean, you've killed almost everybody on the planet. You have studied assassinations and these kinds of events. So let me ask you, from what you've seen in history, this guy had a violent streak in him. I mean, his foster daughter set herself on fire to be able, literally, doused herself with gasoline, set herself on fire to be able to get away from this guy. Right. He was a violent man, had gunplay and violence in his criminal history. So he didn't really need very much to light a fuse. However, at the same time, I don't believe that he was a typical Bernie Sanders follower. He was one of these diehard revolutionary guys. I mean, I would compare him to almost an Antifa kind of mentality, to where you want that revolution, you want that dramatic change. Where do we split him on crazy, violent guy and a violent revolutionary?
See, I wouldn't even tag him with the revolutionary thing. I just think if you sat down with this guy, a week ago before he did this, and you talked to him, you'd leave the table within 15 minutes going, this is a real nut. He'd be all over the place. I mean, he's not like a well-thought-out Che Guevara guy.
But aren't any, because you've done, wait, Bill, but know because you've done so many books, and I mean this sincerely, on assassination, those guys are usually always nuts. I mean, the revolutionaries are always nuts.
Well, wait. When you have a revolutionary, and the best example is the Cubans, because that was the last one that was close to us. And these guys, Castro and Guevara and all of these guys, I mean, they were psychopaths.
No, I mean revolutionary assassins.
Okay, but they were revolutionary assassins. They did kill thousands of people in the name of instituting a government there that was going to be communist. But they weren't like this guy. All right. They were, justifying their murder in their mind because they want to impose communism, and that's what it takes. This guy just wanted to hurt people. And there are literally tens of thousands of this guys running around.
So how do you make the difference there? Because he did want to hurt people, but he wanted to hurt Republicans in particular.
Yes. And his psychosis I can't analyze, but I can tell you this. The ramp up in political violence is directly because of the incendiary rhetoric that you see on the internet and on television, and in some quarters on radio as well. All right. So now these nuts, where they used to be isolated, Hinckley and Oswald were isolated individuals. All right? They didn't have a framework. They didn't have many friends. They didn't. Now you can go on the internet and you can find literally hundreds of people as crazy as you are who actually encourage this kind of violence. That never happened before. And so when John Wilkes Booth, another nut, was stalking Lincoln because he wanted slavery reimposed, okay, it was alone. He was alone. Now these people are encouraged to do what they do. And it's easy to find compatriots who are as crazy as they are.
Right.
That's the difference.
Okay, very good point. Back with Bill O'Reilly from BillO'Reilly.com. It is Father's Day. He's got a crap load of books. He writes them in his sleep. Your dad's going to like one of them. He's got a new one on the Civil War. But really, I mean, he writes them they're like teardrops from my eyes. There's a never-ending stream of them. And you can get it for Father's Day. If you order now, you'll be able to get it by Sunday. You do have overnight delivery, because I know that's not old school.
No, of course we do. And you can just go on Amazon, they'll get it to you, or in a bookstore. You know what a novel concept. Go to the bookstore.
Yeah, that doesn't happen anymore. BillO'Reilly.com. More with him in just a second.
This is the Glenn Beck Program.
Yesterday, I spoke about the broken windows theory that Rudy Giuliani used to clean up New York.
And then Bill just made kind of a similar one.
Yeah.
In that you can sort of directly tie this to the rhetoric because these nuts who are alone, like in the case of Oswald, didn't know other like-minded people. But now on the Internet, you have the opportunity to find
and
a
not
bunch
only
of
the opportunity,
like-minded people.
you have, like in the broken windows theory, you're walking down a street where there are no broken windows. The average person doesn't pick up a rock and break a window. But you're walking through a neighborhood that's full of broken windows. The average person is much more likely to do it because they feel like everybody's doing it.
Definitely.
And the rhetoric on both sides is giving permission to some of these nuts of saying it's okay to pick up a rock. It's okay to pick up a gun because the other side is worthless and they are a danger. They're evil, et cetera, et cetera. Bill O'Reilly is with us, breathing heavily on the phone for some reason. I don't know if he's just because he got up from his chair and walked over to the phone, and so now he's out of breath because that's the
your analysis
exercise.
Was so perspicacious.
Breathtaking.
It just got caught in my throat.
Yeah. I think that's a little bit of bullcrap geting caught in your throat there.
No, but I mean, it's just stunning. I hope you just take that clip and just play it over and over and over again. Perhaps during the gold commercials.
So let me.
Anyway,
so Bill, let me ask you this.
No, I want to make a point off your point.
God, go ahead.
I did on the podcast on Tuesday on BillO'Reilly.com a thing on the resistance. This is important.
Yes.
Okay? The resistance is, and Hillary Clinton's one of the first persons to sign on to it, is basically a movement that says whatever Trump does, we're going to oppose. So if he gives free food to every poor person for 5 years, we'll oppose it because it's making them fat or something like that, okay? The resistance. Now, the resistance is tied into, as you guys know, World War II. In all of the countries that the Germans occupied, there was a resistance. Mm-hmm. So that word is not an accident. Not an accident. Okay, so they set up, the Trump haters, the resistance. And in the resistance, you can pretty much do and say anything. Anything. And these people communicate with each other on the net. All right? So you can be as hateful as you want, as violent as you want, as irrational as you want, but you're still a member of the resistance. You don't lose your resistance cred. So therefore, it starts to build in people's minds, like the nut who went and tried to kill the Republicans, that not only are they justified in these kinds of acts, but they're heroes. They're heroes. Kathy Griffin thought she was going to be a hero in her precincts for doing this. That's what she thought. And then there's the money-making aspect of the resistance. So there's no accident MSNBC. All they do That's all they do is the resistance and we hate Trump and distort whatever day story comes out, okay? But what's happening? All the resistance people are watching them. So they're making money from it. And Fox News has no answer. They have no answer. So that's why they're declining, and the others are going up. So this is a really, really important part of the political scene in our country that no one's talking about.
So what is the answer, Bill?
You have to out it.
You have to what?
Just as I did, and you have to, on shows like yours, you have to discuss it.
Right. But how do you discuss? How do you
They hear this resistance, but they don't know what it is. They don't know what the subtlety is and what they're trying to get across, that Trump's a Nazi. Okay? That's what they're trying to do, to demonize him to the point where anything is acceptable in opposing him, any action. Look, this guy, and everybody's made this point, but I think it's worth restating. In Illinois, he could have killed 20, 30 people, if not for the protection that Congressman Scalise had. He could have gunned down 20 or 30, and he was perfectly willing to do that. So, this is domestic terrorism at its highest.
Yes, I agree with that. I want to start there when we come back and add in the latest from Ted Nugent and get Bill O'Reilly's thoughts on that. BillO'Reilly.com. Back in a minute.
The Glenn Beck Program. Mercury. This is the Glenn Beck Program.
Welcome back to the program, 888-727-BECK. We're on with Bill O'Reilly, and I want to talk a little bit about what Ted Nugent said yesterday. Listen to this audio from Ted Nugent.
I think we've reached critical mass. I tend to agree. You and I had a bit of a confrontation because of some of the language I've used, and I have reevaluated my approach, even though I'm a street fighter. I'm from Detroit. Yeah. We use language in the street. We use certain harsh terms. But at the tender age of 69, my wife has convinced me that I just can't use those harsh terms. I cannot, and I will not, and I encourage even my friends/enemy on the left in the Democrat and liberal world that we have got to be civil to each other.
Bill O'Reilly, that's the Motor City madman, and a guy who I really like personally. I think he's great, but he has said some crazy things in the last couple of years, and I think that I've heard, I haven't talked to Ted about this, but I have heard that he has had a problem with me because I have taken such a light approach and said, we've got to change our language. We have to stop this rhetoric. Now he's saying this. What does that tell you, Bill?
Well, I think you got to give credit to Nugent. I don't know him well. I met him a couple of times, and he's, in person, very nice to talk to. Yeah. And, the message that he's putting out is a good one, but it's not going to, it's not going to take root on a mass level because you have too much money involved in this. There's just an awful lot of money involved in this hatred. I can't get into it too much, but I will maybe we can't even give you a time frame on it. But, the attack on me and Fox News that happened in April was not an accident. It was a very well-organized and funded situation.
Yes.
And when you have this kind of a thing involved, and you know me, I'm not a conspiratorialist or a paranoid guy or anything like that.
No, you're not.
And I was taken completely by surprise on this. But then, as we've been investigating, we being my attorneys, and uncovering the evidence that's hard and factual, it is stunning about how powerful people, well-funded people, are out to destroy the political opposition. And, Hillary Clinton was a victim of that to some extent as well.
So hang on, Bill, because I want to talk about that, and I'm not going to get into any of the details, but I want to talk about that because this is where the rubber meets the road. I believe that Martin Luther King was right, Malcolm X was wrong, and I know you believe that as well. And Martin Luther King was excoriated at the beginning, and mainly by people like Malcolm X, who said, you just want to roll over. And he's like, no, that doesn't mean you don't speak the truth. You do say the hard things. You just say them with faith, hope, and love, and you make that your core. We're not after revenge. So if Martin Luther King was right, which again I'm assuming you believe he was, and then you say things like what you just said, which I also believe is true, what people will say, and this is, I think, a large core of those on the right and the left, they will say, well, see, it's war. They're out to destroy us. It's war. How do we balance the truth and the Martin Luther King approach?
Well, it is war. I mean, that's true. There's no doubt there's a culture war in this country, and now it's extended into presidential politics and electoral politics. So the war is underway. But because we're a country of laws, you can't fight the war with violence and weapons and things like that. So what they're fighting it with is propaganda, number one. And, I always say the same thing to people. And the mandate of a free press, given privileges by the founding fathers in our Constitution, is to seek the truth, wherever it is. That's gone. Okay? It's gone in America. We have very few truth seekers. And those who do that are going to be target number one for the propagandists and the people who are engaged in the culture war. But the best way to fight the war is by exposure and by accumulating facts. Let me give you a really good example. Okay? CNN has been virulently anti-Trump. Their ratings are awful. They have not prospered like MSNBC has. All right, even though they've tried to get the same niche audience, they won't watch CNN because CNN isn't quite as hateful and isn't quite as conspiratorial as the extremists over at MSNBC.
Yeah.
So even though they're fighting the war on the wrong side, CNN, all right, they're not prospering. They're not. And they've been neutralized by the truth. Let me give you the biggest fact that I want your audience to take away today. We hear every single day, hour upon hour, about the Mueller investigation and all these leaks coming out. Ooh, Donald Trump's under criminal investigation. Anybody in the United States who gets audited by the IRS is under criminal investigation.
Yes.
Because if you cheated, you could go to jail. All right? So when I saw that, my head popped up. I went, what? Just by the very nature of a special prosecutor, he's going to investigate.
Correct.
That's not a big story.
Correct.
He's going to talk to people about allegations.
Correct.
That's what his mandate is.
Correct.
But they make it like every allegation is a fact, is a crime. The way to fight that is to expose them. And that's what I'm trying to do, and I think you're trying to do it as well.
Okay, so expose them on what, other than the truth that you just said? That a criminal investigation, that was a foregone conclusion.
Right. And it's a fraud for news organizations to say, breaking news.
Well, wait.
Under criminal investigation. That's a fraud.
But wait, did you not see the Twitter feed of the president today?
Which one? He had a bunch of them. The witch hunt one?
He did say he was under investigation today.
Where he said, he's announcing that I'm under investigation. This is a witch hunt. He's just played into that.
Yes, I know, but come on. I mean, this is what he does, and here's the reason he does it. Because he wants to whip up his base to a point of indignation.
But what is the difference between that and what MSNBC is doing?
Because he's defending himself in his mind. He's defending himself, all right? And that's the difference.
But they're in their mind. But wait. But in their mind, they're defending their principles and their country as they see it.
But you don't defend by perpetuating a fraud.
Wait, but that's what he was. But wait, but that's what he did today. He perpetuated.
No, he didn't. All he said was, in his opinion, it's a witch hunt. Okay, and he's perfectly entitled to do that. I would. All right. And the second thing is, he said that Mueller told him to fire Comey. Now, I don't know whether that's true or not.
Yeah.
You would assume it would be if he's going to say it to the world. But he's trying to defend himself and get his allies to defend him as well. So it's not a fait accompli that he's a criminal, because that's what the New York Times and MSNBC are putting out there, that he's a criminal. That's what they're putting out.
Billy, and your problem here is that they are essentially treating the investigation as if it's already arrived at a conclusion.
Right. The allegation is true. He's committed a crime. That's the headline on CNN and MSNBC.
An indictment, for instance, is not a conviction.
But, it's the president.
And here's the thing. Mueller can't even indict him. Mueller can't indict Trump. Mm-hmm. All right? Under the Constitution, all Mueller can do is refer any kind of activity that he feels is illegal to Congress.
Right.
And Congress has to take action.
Correct.
But Mueller can indict Flynn or anybody else he wants to, but not the president of the United States.
Right. But the president being under investigation obviously is a story. I mean, it was certainly covered when Clinton was under investigation by a special prosecutor before all the facts came to light. I mean, shouldn't it be
it's a story, but just report it as such and contextualize it, like the IRS thing that I just gave you. Any American audited is under a criminal investigation, because they're investigating whether or not you paid your taxes. So you're under criminal investigation. That's how crazy this is.
Well, I think perhaps that some of this, and you and I disagree on the tactics of the White House. But
I'm not. Look, if I were President Trump, I would not be doing what he's doing. I'm explaining why he's doing, not justifying.
I understand what he's doing and why he's doing it. And I do believe that he believes this is nonsense and a witch hunt. And I do believe that he wants his allies to be whipped up so they will defend him.
Right.
I just don't believe that the ends justify the means. If it's wrong for one side, it's wrong for me. And I don't think you make your case.
But here's where you're going wrong. He's not on the attack. He's not. All he's doing is defending himself, which he has a right to do. It's not like Trump is going out and saying Mueller committed a crime.
No, I understand.
Or,
I understand that.
But and the other thing, he's defending.
There's two things. Jesus never started using the other tactics of the other side.
Yeah, and he wound up with nails in his hands and feet.
And he
does not want to be put on the cross, but they'll put him there.
But he also won in the end. The second point on this is that I think Donald Trump has brought a lot of this onto himself, because he made such a big deal of, I'm not under investigation. I'm not under investigation. Once he appointed the special counsel, that's what that is putting yourself under investigation.
But he didn't appoint the Justice Department appointed. He had nothing. He didn't even know Mueller was appointed Trump until after Rosenstein did it. So Trump didn't appoint a special counsel. The Justice Department did. But you're right. You're right that he made a big deal out of trying to get the PR hit that I wasn't under investigation. And as soon as the special counsel came in, of course, the special counsel is going to look at everybody. Right. Everybody's under investigation, including you and me.
Right. Okay. Bill O'Reilly, Father's Day gifts. Go ahead and give your
All right. I mean, BillO'Reilly.com premium membership is a very strong father and grandfather gift. All you got to do is go on our website, give it to them. They can then hear the podcasts every night, which are sweeping the nation, as you know. And then we have the 3 books. We have Civil War, Legends and Lies, and Old School Life in the Sane Lane, and Killing the Rising Sun. Very kind of you to have me on and let me promote this stuff, Beck. I really appreciate it. And a happy Father's Day to you. You're a good dad, and I know that to be true.
You too, Bill. And it's It's no special favor I'm doing for you. The audience loves it, and I enjoy our friendship and our conversation every week. I will tell you this. What Bill said about the premium membership is true. We actually listen to his podcast, mainly because we're trying to trap him in stuff. But it's well worth the money, and your dad will really enjoy it. BillO'Reilly.com. Thanks, Bill. I appreciate it.
All right, guys.
All right.
Have a good week.